you. Please remain standing for the opening prayer by Mr. Michael Watson, Director of Business Systems and Applications at the Forestry Department.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's pray. Most righteous and eternal Father, God of the universe, God of this earth, God of Jamaica, land we love. Thank you for allowing us to steward what you have given to us, Lord God. Thank you for allowing us to partner with you in this way. May you grant us favor to execute this project with excellence, to accomplish our goals within scope, budget, and time. May these proceedings today, Lord God, be blessed and fruitful in the matchless name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. You may be seated. Ambassador Marion Van Steen, Head of Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, Belize, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and the Cayman Islands, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Norman Scott, Mayor of Spanish Town, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Winston Maraj, Mayor of Maypen, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Paul Thompson, Mayor of Port Antonio, Miss Janelle Tomlinson, Program Management and Monitoring Specialist of the Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, Professor Dale Weber, Coastal Ecologist and Head of the Center for Marine Sciences at the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Mr. Ainsley Henry, CEO and Conservator of Forests at the Forestry Department, Mrs. Nicolene Whiteley, Project Manager, other specially invited guests, my colleagues at the Forestry Department, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning once again, and welcome to the launch of the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. I am Nashejige Elliott, Public Relations and Communications Officer at the Forestry Department, and I am truly honored to be the chair for this morning's program. Now, today is a very significant one for us at the Forestry Department as we launch the Jamaica Mangroves Plus, Protection and Sustainable Management of Jamaica's Mangrove System and the Biodiversity Project. Now, I know that's a very long-winded name, so I just encourage you to remember the key words, and it's just 4 of them: protection, sustainable management, mangrove ecosystem, and biodiversity, which you can see on the banners behind me. And if you cannot remember them, Jamaica Mangroves Plus project works just fine. Sponsored by the Global Environment Facility, or GEF, this project is designed to promote a biodiversity positive approach to this valuable habitat, which is so critical to our generation, especially in this ongoing climate crisis. Now, to warm us up for the session in a more positive way, I invite Mr. Ainsley Henry, CEO and Conservator of Forests, to extend an official welcome. Mr. Henry is a committed champion for the protection and conservation of the natural environment and our forests, including, of course, our mangroves. Please come forward, Mr. Henry.
Master of Ceremonies, Ms. Elliott, Ambassador Van Steen, Head of the Delegation for the European Union, His Worship, the Mayor of Maypen, Spanish Town, Port Antonio, Professor Dale Weber, Head of the Center for Marine Sciences, Ms. Janelle Tomlinson, Program Management and Monitoring Specialist for FAO, Mr. Andre Fash from the European Union Delegation, Ms. Whiteley, the Program Manager, Evan Thompson from the Med Service, other specially invited guests, my colleagues from the Forestry Department, ladies and gentlemen from the media, ladies and gentlemen generally, good morning and welcome. It is with a great sense of pleasure that I welcome you to the launch of the Jamaica Mangroves Plus Protection and Sustainable Management of Jamaica's Mangrove Ecosystems and Biodiversity Project. This pleasure I feel stems from the recognition that this is a groundbreaking activity. We're gathered here today to mark the start of a significant initiative aimed at promoting biodiversity positive approaches to the sustainable management of Jamaica's wetland forest habitats. This project is strategically aligned with the recently completed National Mangrove and Swamp Forest Management Plan, the implementation of which reflects our commitment to addressing the direct drivers of mangrove and swamp forest ecosystem degradation. At this point, it would be remiss of me not to pause to acknowledge and to specifically thank the European Union and Ambassador Van Steen, as it is with their help and support through the recently concluded budget support program for the forest sector that this urgently needed plan was completed. Today, for the first time in our history as a country, we have taken deliberate and concrete steps to codify strategies and actions geared at guiding our efforts to sustainably manage and protect the wetland forests remaining in Jamaica. This plan also has the distinction of having been developed through collaborative and iterative processes with all our wetland forest stakeholders. All of them had the opportunity to contribute and to guide its development, and today we are poised to, through continued concerted efforts, safeguard crucial biodiversity and contribute to the overall well-being of our coastal ecosystems. The Jamaica Mangrove Plus project is funded by a grant from the Global Environment Facility through the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, and we at the Forestry Department are humbled to be spearheading its implementation. We're also very fortunate that our many partners have already demonstrated their commitment to this enterprise by providing their support, which has resulted in this project being approved, and again, by them demonstrating that commitment and support by being here with us today. Their continued support and commitment are among the most important factors that will result in the success of this vital endeavor. I think it is fair to say that we all now recognize that mangroves play a pivotal role in preserving the health of our coastlines, our ecosystems, and in fact, our biodiversity. And it is in the recognition of that importance that this project is dedicated to restoring, rehabilitating, protecting, and conserving as much as possible of our remaining wetland forests. To achieve this goal, we will seek to make the necessary changes to policies, create a more conducive environment for mangrove sustainability, raise awareness among relevant stakeholders about the significance of mangroves, create and popularize maps to illustrate wetland forests, proposed zones, and areas under consideration for preservation and restoration. Develop a dedicated website to provide real-time updates on the status of management of wetland forests. Designate areas for protection, and importantly, rehabilitate and restore degraded areas. These actions will allow stakeholders to stay informed and engaged, and will facilitate our adherence to the strategic framework which was developed through partnerships with these stakeholders. They will also facilitate ongoing monitoring and evaluation to ensure the effectiveness of conservation efforts. This collaborative approach underscores the importance of the participation of all Jamaicans in securing a brighter future through individual and collective action to ensure that we all have access to a healthy environment. As we embark on this pivotal journey, we invite everyone to join hands towards the protection and sustainable management of Jamaica's mangrove ecosystems. And I thank you once again for your presence and support as we advance towards a greener and more sustainable future.
Thank you, Mr. Henry, for welcoming all of us in playing our parts in this project. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, the Forestry Department is the lead agency responsible for managing and conserving the island's forest resources. Now, in fulfilling that role, we have the invaluable support of several agencies. And with us today are representatives of two of these partner agencies who will be bringing us greetings on behalf of their organizations. The Jamaica Mangrove Plus project is being funded by the Global Environment Facility through the Food and Agriculture Organization, with which the Forestry Department has had a long and valuable relationship. Over the years, we have worked on several projects and shared valuable data and information, which has helped to strengthen forest management in Jamaica. And so we look forward to working with them as we continue and embark on this new frontier of making forest management in Jamaica much more recognized and productive. With that said, I invite Ms. Janelle Tomlinson, Program Management and Monitoring Specialist at the Food and Agriculture Organization, to bring us greetings.
Master of Ceremonies, Professor Dale Weber, Head of the Center for Marine Sciences, Head of the European Union Delegation, Ambassador Marianne Van Steen, CEO and Conservator of Forests, Mr. Ainsley Henry, representatives of the various governmental agencies, ministries, environmental colleagues, media, good morning. It is a great honor to be a part of this occasion as we undertake a crucial initiative which addresses mangrove management and underscores the importance of collaborative efforts in safeguarding Jamaica's rich biodiversity. At the global level, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations seeks to address and is deeply committed to addressing environmental challenges and promoting sustainable practices that safeguard our ecosystems. Mangroves, with their unique ecological significance, play a pivotal role in this mission. The Jamaica Mangroves Project, is a testament to our global partnership and commitment as it aligns with FAO's mission to promote sustainable resource management and environmental conservation. We must acknowledge the role of the European Union Budget Support Program, a valuable partner in the realization of this project. The collaborative efforts between the European Union and Jamaica, alongside the support from the Global Environment Facility, underscore the international community's commitment to addressing environmental challenges and promoting sustainable practices. As we actively collaborate with the government, international agencies, non-government organizations, and rural communities, we will continue to drive impactful change. This project exemplifies this collaborative spirit, with the Forestry Department leading the charge alongside our support. The project not only aligns with global initiatives, but is deeply rooted in Jamaica's national aspirations as articulated in Vision 2030. The vision's goal to achieve a healthy natural environment resonates with the objectives of this specific project. Establishing new mangrove protected areas and restoring ecosystems not only safeguards key habitats and species, but also the well-being of coastal and inland communities whose livelihoods depend on these vital ecosystems. In our pursuit of sustainability, FAO places a strong emphasis on inclusivity. This project incorporates gender and youth considerations, ensuring that diverse groups are considered in decision-making processes and are indeed active participants. One example of this is the Gender and Youth Mainstreaming Strategy and Plan for ecosystem-based management of priority forested wetland areas. This inclusivity is crucial for fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility among all stakeholders, ultimately leading to more effective and lasting solutions. The project's significance extends beyond the local context, with clear links to climate change adaptation and mitigation. Mangroves act as natural buffers against the impacts of climate change, providing essential protection from hurricanes and storm surges. By investing in mangrove restoration and protection, Jamaica is taking a proactive step towards building resilience in the face of climate-related challenges. Moreover, the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project aligns with FAO's broader goals, including the transformation of food systems. The intricate links between mangrove ecosystems and fisheries, which provide food, materials for fishing and livelihood opportunities, highlight the importance of preserving these habitats for sustainable food production, as well as for maintaining lives and livelihoods. As we embark on this journey together, let us be guided by FAO's 4 betters: better production, better nutrition, better environment, and ultimately, a better life. The Jamaica Mangroves Plus project exemplifies our commitment to achieving these betters by promoting sustainable practices, enhancing environmental resilience, and of course, improving the lives of local communities. In closing, I commend Jamaica for its dedication to mangrove conservation and express FAO's unwavering commitment to supporting these efforts. Together, let us work towards a future where mangrove ecosystems thrive, biodiversity flourishes, and sustainable practices pave the way for a better, more resilient Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson, for endorsement of the project. And I'm glad we're getting more and more information about how important our mangroves are. And I'm really happy for the spotlight that they've been getting in recent years. Coming next to bring us greetings is Ambassador Marion Van Steen, Head of Delegation of the European Union to Jamaica, Belize, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and the Cayman Islands. Ambassador Van Steen is a friend of the Forestry Department and was close to us during the recently concluded 4-year European Union-funded budget support program for the forest sector. This program allowed Jamaica to implement major components of the National Forest Management and Conservation Plan, or the NFMCP. One of the noteworthy results is that under the European Union budget support program, we were able to complete the National Mangrove and Swamp Forest Management Plan, which is a first for a country. And this plan will facilitate the protection and conservation of our wetland forest resources. So I now invite Ambassador Van Steen to bring us greetings.
Thank you very much. As protocol has been established, I hope you will accept that I acknowledge all of you together. Good morning to each and every one of you. It's truly an honor and a pleasure for me to be here and to have been asked to give some opening remarks to this lounge today. And I will not take too much time, but I would like to make 3 or 4 points. And the first one is to really, from all my heart, congratulate the Forestry Department, CEO present here, civil society, private sector, everyone who has contributed to make our rather important forestry support program a success. I think it was a success. It was 4 years. I've been part of that process from far away, but I have my colleague Andre who has been closer, and we really have been impressed, and I think that this is an opportunity to say thank you and congratulations to all of you who have contributed. Now, one of the achievements was indeed to make an inventory of mangroves and swamp forests and present a national mangroves and swamp forest management plan for 10 years, 2023 until 2033. And this indeed has become a key instrument of governance and transparency in this sector. So, which brings me to my point number 2. My point number 2 is that when a donor goes to a country and we finance a project in one or the other area, of course it's very important that you reach results and that you're happy with the results. But the main challenge for donors is that when you do something, that it has sustainability and that it will continue. And it's not always easy. Very often I have seen in too many countries, too many projects that where it is over. I mean, the doors close, the project ends, everyone's very happy with the results. You do a closure and congratulations. And then little by little, the results kind of evaporate, and you do not always see that sustainability that we would wish to see, because that's the reason why we do provide assistance to many countries. So I'm really very, very happy to be here today and to have realized that there is going to be continuity. There's going to be continuity, and the plan that I referred to and that has been referred to, the National Mangrove and Swamp Forest Management Plan, is not just a plan that will end up somewhere on a shelf, but it will be implemented, and knowing the expertise and the commitment of the forestry department and all of those who have contributed to our initial program, I am very confident that this is going to be very, very positive for the country. Which brings me to my point number 3. And my point number 3 is that we are in a race. I mean, we are, the entire world, we are competing against climate change, rising sea levels, coastal erosion, loss of biodiversity, scarcity of our fish stocks, the deterioration of our environment. I can make a long list, and I have a long list here, but I mean, we are facing one of the biggest threats to humankind. Not to nature. Nature will survive one way or the other. But whether human beings or humankind will survive is still the question. And the only way to win that race is, together. Yes, the countries that contributed to climate change, and certainly many of the European Union member states are part of that, other countries as well. Yes, we have a historic responsibility, and we have an obligation to help other countries, in particular small island developing states that have not contributed but that are suffering and will suffer most from the effects of climate change, to help. And we are doing that. But I do think as well that I can say that at this point in time we've come to the conclusion, or not even the conclusion, we've come to know that we all need to work together. We need to unite forces if we really want to face that huge challenge. All hands on deck, we need to act decisively. We just come out of the COP, and I was just exchanging with Professor. He was present, I wasn't, but I've been following a bit on a distance. This COP28 is, it's number 28 every year, this big multilateral gathering of all the countries of the world, and everyone together trying to seek how, in one way or the other, taking into account national perspectives that are completely different, seeing how we can unite forces in order to address that huge threat that's coming towards us. And I think this time, coming out of COP28, I imagine that the professor will refer to it. Are we happy? Are we not happy? I don't think we've ever been very, very satisfied. I think we can always do better. I think, and when I say we, I mean the European Union. I think we've been known as well as leaders, very protagonists to fight climate change. But also, if I may, on behalf of the Caribbean countries, the small island development states, we're not 100% happy. We made steps, and these steps are important, and they need to be acknowledged, but it's a process, and I think we need to do a lot more. But, as I said, all efforts count, and I'm indeed really pleased that Jamaica is not only pledging and announcing plans to, contribute its part to fight climate change, but that actually Jamaica is indeed also doing its part and focusing very strongly on forestry, on this mangroves. Is relatively new, I think, but it's extremely important. We have started to realize how important mangroves are, and the protection of the country's biodiversity. There is also now the commitment to go for more renewable energy by 2030. So we are noting that Jamaica is also taking steps, and that is very important. Going back to the implementation of the forestry plan, we really think that it has been exemplary, and it has brought Jamaica on a path. I think the way it's been done is also something which is really important, because it was very balanced. It was on the one hand trying to protect the biodiversity, but on the other hand also to make sure that livelihoods of the people living in the forest was not negatively impacted but positively. It was about climate resilience, and maybe even the most important aspect, and that's also what I think was an important outcome, to raise awareness of the people of how important forests and mangroves are in this big fight against climate change. So as far as the EU is concerned, I'm very happy and very proud that we have done our little contribution. I know the actual work on the ground was not us, but we have done our contribution, even if it was by paying a check and guiding a bit and providing some expertise. But I want to conclude by saying, not because that program is finished, that we will just go away and not be committed anymore to help Jamaica face the challenges of climate change. We are, for the moment, still supporting a very important program, which is called A Jamaican Path from Hills to Oceans. We're working very closely with the Planning Institute of Jamaica, with NEPA and RADA, and the idea is really to build resilience for the impact of climate change on the country. Very interesting program, but still a lot of work to be done. And in the future, we're now looking at ways that we can make Kingston a little bit more sustainable. I think it needs a bit of support. We're looking at the mangrove and the green part of Kingston, see if there are ways that we can also give that little push, and then hopefully these efforts are being taken over by the government. We also have realized that grants, I mean, it's nice to get a grant, but it's little money. I mean, you need a lot more money, so now we're also talking with the private sector, we're talking with the banks to see if we can leverage loans, because, we would like to see repeated the results that we had with the forestry sector in other parts of the country as well. So just wanted to say we're not going to let you alone, we're going to try to continue to assist the country. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Van Steen, for the continued support, for further endorsement as well, and for bringing up a major factor for the project longevity. So we will aspire through public education and through capacity building, all that we can do as an agency, to work with our stakeholders who are here and who are not here, so that there will be some behavioral change by 2033 and even beyond, so persons can continue to work to protect our mangrove forest resources and to look at them more than just vegetation, but as nurseries and as barrier against, storm surges and all of that. So thank you so much. And this is a charge to us as well, who are here, to be informed and to be active in how we encounter or how we look at mangrove forests. So ladies and gentlemen, I know that by now you are intrigued and invested in this project and its potential to improve and sustain healthy and productive mangroves in our small island. So we must be clear on the objective to implement strategies that will conserve our mangrove forests. And we will learn even more about the project objectives shortly. At this time, we will share a short video with you on the current state of mangroves in Jamaica. And I pause again to acknowledge the support of the European Union in producing or assisting with the production of the video. Following this presentation, we will have the project overview by project manager, Mrs. Nicolene Whiteley.
Forests are vital for life on Earth. Mangroves are tropical and subtropical trees and plants that live primarily in coastal environments. Mangroves can be found in every parish. They thrive mostly in the brackish wetlands on the south coast as well as on the north coast. Jamaican mangrove forests are a biologically diverse and productive ecosystem.
They're very important to us as human beings who happen to live near mangroves.
The mangrove is like a wall, we call it a buffer, that keeps back the strong force of wind that comes with an hurricane, and it also keeps back the high tide from entering into the community.
Mangroves control erosion, improve water quality, trap soil and sediments, protect coral reefs, and build up the land. They provide a nursery ground and habitat for fish, shellfish, and other species, as well as a refuge for marine animals. Jamaican mangroves present ecotourism opportunities and support local livelihoods.
The mangrove, it's where the fish them breed. Them hide the night, grow at night. No other predator can come and catch it. We have to protect it. Protect the fish that we can catch and make our money.
Mangrove forests are among the most carbon-rich ecosystems globally and play a critical role in the fight against climate change.
Mangrove forests can actually capture and retain and hold for an indefinite period the most carbon per unit of forest and prevent that carbon from causing harmful effects in our climate.
Jamaican mangroves are hardy and resilient, but are under threat from urban area expansion, industrial development, and other human activities.
Person used to use it for charcoal burning, feed animals or such. They didn't really know the importance. Now we know to protect it because it is protecting us.
Mangroves are important for our quality of life. We need to recognize their worth, value them, and allow them to thrive. Act now to protect and preserve the mangroves.
Pleasant morning to everyone, and all protocols observed. I'm happy to see that there are a lot of seats being filled, and I just want to see some more smiles on each of your faces, because we're starting a new project. We want to feel like energy. You have to have that energy going forward. So let's see some smiles on the faces. All right, so today is the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project launch. And I am the project manager / coordinator for this project. And it is the first of its kind, and we are looking forward to working with all the individuals here today, as well as those who are not here today. And we just want to start by looking at why was this project necessary? Between 2017 and 2021, there was a net loss of 16.9 hectares of mangroves, despite efforts to restore 2.7. So within 5 years, there's a destruction of 16.9 hectares. So imagine if we continue on this destructive path for the next 10, 15 years, you can understand what's going to happen to our society and our coastlines. The documented losses are associated with both permitted and unpermitted developments, with tourism and residential projects impacting northern parishes, port and industrial developments affecting southern parishes. The environmental challenges faced by Jamaica include rising temperatures, decreased rainfall, and projected sea level rise, leading to increased water salinity in mangroves. This change in environmental condition poses a risk to mangrove dieback. So the conditions in which our mangroves are being grown is important. So our community, our stakeholders, all persons, actors involved must understand that the environment in which our mangroves are being allowed to thrive must be considered. A significant portion of lost mangroves in Jamaica is estimated to be potentially restorable. However, recent losses emphasizes the urgency of effective conservation and restoration initiatives to address the ongoing challenges. So hence, we are responding with the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. So our project objective is to promote biodiversity positive approach towards sustainable management of mangroves habitats by contributing to implementation of the National Mangroves and Swamp Management Plan. The goal is to implement strategies that will achieve the conservation of a minimum of 60% or 7,600 hectares of Jamaica's government-owned forested wetlands and 20% of privately owned forested wetlands by 2062. Now, with any project which it's new, we have to make some assumptions. The dominant government ownership. Majority of the, or most of the portions, or significant portions of the mangroves are on government-owned lands. There's also a simultaneous focus towards projects targeting government lands, declaring new project protected areas, and integrating mangrove science into national and local decision making. There's also the timely mangrove data collection, assuming that there will swiftly and synthesis of mangrove data for local decisions and broader sectoral knowledge dissemination. And here we have our overview of our theory of change. And this project is seeking to impact 400 direct beneficiaries with an indirect beneficiary of around 18,194 beneficiaries. So the project has 3 components: the National Mangrove Policy Strengthening, 2, mangrove ecosystem restoration, and 3, knowledge management and project monitoring and evaluation. So let's look into component number 1. Strengthening policy, enabling environment for successful implementation of the National Mangrove and Swamp Management Plan. So here, we're going to look at the parish development orders, update them with forest, wetland, zoning, and conservation status. So as it stands, there is no real capturing of forested wetlands in developmental orders. Permitting processes enhancements, mangrove protection policy and regulation update, sector-specific policy briefs, forest wetland acquisition study. So herein lies variation of how we're going to put everything into a legal framework to strengthen mangroves development. The second outcome of component number 1, ecosystem-based mangrove management with emphasis in resource users and livelihoods, mainstreamed into land use planning processes. And here, as we mentioned, looking to protect at least 7,600 hectares of designated wetlands. And also looking at gender and youth mainstreaming strategies. So we have to include gender and our youths in whatever we are doing, because they are the future. They will encourage continuity of protecting our mangroves. Outcome 3 of component 1, new mangrove protected areas established. So in this area, there'll be prioritized government forested wetlands requiring, there'll be prioritization of government forested wetlands requiring urgent conservation, and also seeking land transfer for forested wetland management. So here, at present, forestry is responsible for standing trees, but we are seeking to land transfer to manage forested wetlands. Component 2, restored health of priority mangrove habitats to improve associated biodiversity and mangrove ecosystem services, including support to marine ecosystems and fisheries. So here, we're going to do some work. Restoration plans developed, wetland site investigation conducted, mangrove restoration accomplished, and mangrove education billboard set up. So it includes technical consideration of our conservation efforts, and also building awareness among the local communities, especially those that are directly impacted by these mangroves. And component 3, improve management and dissemination and awareness of Jamaica's habitat knowledge. So as mentioned before, there will be a repository of map information. So oftentimes you're doing a project, you're writing up projects, and you don't have the data to substantiate your proposals. This platform will be able to give you the requisite knowledge and support referencing your projects to what's happening in Jamaica and where are the mangroves located. So we'll be putting in map information. Agency training on wetlands, GIS portal modification to include revised forested wetlands location, and land use and zoning maps to illustrate forested wetland locations and physical boundaries. And finally, in component 3 is the effective project and evaluation to inform adaptive management. And we'll look at outputs, monitoring and evaluation strategy, midterm and final review and final evaluation. So as our ambassador mentioned before, it's not just the project after its timeline and it has ended, but there will be consistent monitoring going forward. And given the mandate of forestry, this project, I believe, it rests in the right hands. Community engagement, the approach, conduct awareness campaigns on mangrove importance and project goals, facilitate community workshops for knowledge sharing and feedback. How are they going to be benefited? Increase awareness and understanding of mangroves ecosystem, opportunities for skill development in sustainable practices, enhance resilience to climate change impacts. And as we mentioned, there will be gender inclusivity. With all projects, there are challenges, and the challenge of climate change impacts is one of them. And as a mitigation, we will implement sector climate resilience plans and leverage latest scientific information on mangroves restoration. And another challenge would be lack of private sector interest. So we are going to raise the awareness of mangroves' importance among private landowners and actors, utilize policy briefs, dissemination for effective engagement. our funders. So this would not have happened without our funders. And as mentioned before, in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture for United Nations, the funding is received from the GEF, Global Environmental Facility, in the amount mentioned, $1,648,630 USD. Yes. And with our co-financers mentioned on the slide here. The project started in late 2023, and it's expected to end in 2027. So the project is a 4 years duration. Some of our key stakeholders that will make this project be realized: the Forestry Department, the National Environment and Planning Agency, the Center for Marine Science, University of the West Indies, National Land Agency, Urban Development Corporation, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and the Ministry of Tourism. And this ends my presentation. So can you bring back can you put back the last slide? This is what I want to draw your attention to. So, as the ambassador mentioned, commitments. The hands are firmly tied. So, it means that we need firm commitments from each of our stakeholders to make this project a reality. Firm commitments. Remember, firm commitments. So, thank you for joining me today. And I do hope that you enjoy the remaining session, and looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Whiteley, for your pleasant smile and for your presentation. It is indeed a very impressive project, and we do look forward to the positive results it will deliver to Jamaica's mangroves and, of course, the benefits to the country. So at this moment, we'll have a brief interlude by the very talented Mr. Shaveen Young. Please give him a welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, and I pray that these items will bless you. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear the unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, and to try when your arms are too weary to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to strive for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man scorned and covered with scars still strode with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. Brief intermission. And I'm back. Me coffee, me coffee, me coffee. Me coffee, me bowl of boiling coffee in the morning. But I cares for nothing else. The only thing for me is me bowl of boiling coffee in the morning. Guess what? Me no drink coffee, tea, mango time. Care how nice them say it be, mango time. The crop, when the fruits them are ripe and drop, wash your pot, turn them down, mango time. Come make we go mango walk, mango time. For his only the talk, mango time. Come make we jump on the big jackass, ride him down and no stop a pass. For the bank ramos full, mango time. Say me no drink coffee, tea, mango time. Care how nice it may be, mango time. At the height of the mango crop, when the fruits them are ripe and drop, wash your pot, turn them down, mango time. Turpentine large and fine, mango time. Robin mango so sweet, mango time. Number 11 and here is skin. Pack the bags them and ram them in. Make the best of the crop, mango time. Me not drink coffee, tea, mango time. Sing with me now. Care how nice it may be, mango time. At the height of the mango crop, when the fruits them are ripe and drop, wash your pot, turn them down. Me say if you wash your pot, turn them down. Wash your pot, turn them down. Mango time.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for those beautiful renditions and that injection of culture and festivity into our program. Give him a round of applause once more, please. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica is blessed to have talented performers, but also experts like our next speaker, who is highly qualified in mangrove conservation, ecosystems, and the environment. Please help me welcome to the podium Professor Dale Weber, coastal ecologist and head of the Center for Marine Sciences at the University of the West Indies campus.
Madam, is it master or mistress of service? I like the all protocols observed because then I don't have to run through the list. But I must say, I haven't seen Ambassador Van Steen since we shared a newspaper article and a television screening, which I think opened both our eyes to the possibilities. But I look around the room and I see friends, and I see friends. So let me start by saying thank you very much to the Forestry Department for allowing me the space to come home. It is really good to be home because I have been away for too long, and the opportunity to be home is something that I cherish. The project that we're talking about today is one of great importance and one that is very dear to me. I think it's important that we think about mangroves for all they are, for what they have been and what they can be. And today is the beginning of a project which is going to make a lot of difference. I think they should be loading a presentation for me, and here we go. So we're going to talk about mangrove conservation. And while we do this, it's going to be in a setting of where are you, what do you know, and how do we move it forward. I will start as well with an apology for Minister Honorable Matthew Samuda, who is here to speak. But being a good Boy Scout, as I walked in, I realized that Minister Samuda is actually in Senate this morning and is giving his State of the Nation. So I'm going to have to give his State of the Nation here. And he actually is going to be mentioning mangroves. And I'll tell you a little story as we go along. Life is full of stories. So what are mangroves all about? So you've heard what they are in terms of being a special community. Without them, we wouldn't have some of the areas that we have, some of the ecosystems, some of the possibilities that we have. But do we value them? Do we cherish them? Do we do enough to try and conserve? And I'm going to end this whole thing by looking at the difference between conservation and restoration, which are very different. We are fortunate, some say, in that we have many tools which will help us manage our mangrove systems. Jamaica is signatory to just about every convention. In fact, there's a little joke in the international arena that if you want something signed, put it in front of Jamaica. We sign everything. But it means we have a responsibility. Because having signed everything, we now have some responsibilities to fulfill. So this gives us an additional reason to do some of the things that we have to do. And I hope that that's going to make a difference in our way forward. So we're using what we know with what tools we have to try and make the difference. So I'm going to quickly take you through a little bit about types of mangroves in case you never know, but I'm sure you do. We're going to look a bit about the mangrove forest cover, and I'm glad to see the update that has been done because some of the data seems to be long in the tooth. Then we're going to look at loss and damage, that famous, those two words that really created havoc at COP. Well, there's some loss and damage that we need to look at here locally. Then we're going to look at some mangrove policies, or policies that affect mangrove and how mangrove affect policies. And finally, we're going to look at some conservation and wrap up. So, as you know, there are 4 types of mangroves in Jamaica. There are over 56 species of mangroves worldwide, but there are 4 in Jamaica. Some say 3 because the last is still in question. And in fact, there are 2 varieties of the buttonwood mangrove. But everybody knows the red mangrove, which is right at the shoreline, the black mangrove a little further in with the black bark. Then there's a white mangrove a little further in. Well, button mangrove, because of the little flowers that the fruits that it bears, is furthest in. And some people say it's not even a mangrove, it's just a wetland species. But I think we can debate that as we go forward. Why is it important to know that there are differences? Because they each do different things in different places. But it is having them all together that actually gives you the best opportunity to manage and get the best of the ecosystems that we have. An ecosystem is what we're looking for here. Not species, not any one species, but the combinations that make a difference. So I invite you to walk with me. Imagine you have a plant, and you may think about mango. Where's the gentleman? Your mango plant, your mango tree. And I thought, by the way, you're going to say, mangrove time. But imagine you have a plant which can take salt water and take fresh water out of it. You therefore need to salute that plant because it is able to find the own water that it needs from the salt water that it's literally sitting in. Doesn't need to run away or escape. That gives it a niche specialization, which means others can't complete. Well, mangroves do that. Imagine you have a plant where it says, okay, I'm going to take in all the salt water and I'm going to just sequester all the salt and push it into a special area. Compartmentalization. Mangroves do that. In doing that, it's also moving the carbon. Because I'm going to take you back to biology class. And you remember your photosynthesis, which is carbon dioxide and water and sunlight and the energy. Well, that carbon that's being taken out of the atmosphere makes all the difference. Carbon sequestration is now a big part of the valuation that we have for mangroves, and they do it better than any other forest type per unit area. As you sequester carbon, now you can keep it in your leaves, you can drop it on the ground. If you think of a mangrove like a person, you can actually push some down in your foot and stick it on the ground, and that can stay there for hundreds of years and makes even more difference. So those roots now become valuable. Imagine you have a plant that now sitting in all this water and all this mud tries to survive and puts up little snorkels, little pneumatophores, things that allow them to breathe because they're living in anoxic condition. Another niche compartmental, another separation that makes it different. In doing that, it is going to prevent soil erosion because those roots hold together all the soil that it's in, like all other plants. But this mangrove is special. It's top heavy, so it's going to fall over. In order not to do that, it then sends out a root. Now, roots usually come from down. This root comes from way up the top, and it's a prop root, which holds the mangrove up literally as a stand. Those roots, however, hold on to the soil so it doesn't roll back out into the sea. You're now beginning to advance land by accretion. This is a special plant. I'm giving you reasons why you need to go out there and conserve it. So I hope you're buying the story. This tree has all the key factors that make it a special entity. It is a mangrove or a group of mangroves. It's found all around Jamaica's coast, but we're going to talk about issues that are happening. It has some below ground special roots, some above ground special roots, and when you see it, you need to respect it and get others to do the same. Now, thanks to Forestry Department, we have a good forest map for Jamaica. However, as you just saw in the presentation, the mangrove forest cover is about 2%, which is small. It was larger, but being the way we are, we tend to go in there and do what we want to do. Have you ever heard this discussion about environmental management and how we need to be champions of? Well, I'm going to ask you to change your mindset. Environmental management has nothing to do with the environment. Left alone, the environment will be just fine. It'll do what it'll do, and it will be awesome. It is the humans you need to manage in the environment, because we're the ones that's making it up. So let's call it people environmental management instead of environmental management, because that 2% is what needs to grow. So we've lost some, but we can gain some, and we have that benchmark that we need to look at. Why is it important? Well, we put it in little boxes here. You have a regulatory service in terms of what it can do. So we talked about the sediment trap and actually making land. We've talked about purification. Think about mangroves as a sponge. Everything that's coming from the land, before it gets to the sea, you have a large area that kind of soaks up everything, kind of does a little distillation, absorbs, and then allows water to pass through. It has shoreline protection and absorbs waves. So this is how it's protecting from shore going out. It's also protecting from the waves coming in. It is also important in carbon sequestration, as we've mentioned. It's a nursery area for fish, birds, and many other species. It's a habitat for a number of species. In fact, I think we have, thankfully, the Forestry Department again has asked partners to partner with us And out in the foyer, you will see some demonstrations from Alligator Head, from the Port Royal Marine Laboratory. And you will find a mangrove root, for instance, in one of those tanks. Do you know that a mangrove root can have as many as 53 species just living on it, hanging in the water, all of which can have a various value? In fact, some of them have been found to have medicinal value. Some of them have ecological value. Some of them have purification values in terms of purifying the water as it passes through. So every time we remove mangrove, we need to think of what are we doing? Providing services in terms of medicine, in terms of food. Did you know that mangrove honey is one of the best honeys, after logwood of course, is one of the best honeys that we can get? They're actually mangrove fruits, which the bees take, and some bees go just to those trees and do the honey. And the mangrove honey is actually very highly sought after. So a number of things we need to think of. Timber. We don't think of mangrove as timber, but I'm looking at Mr. Henry here, because Mr. Henry and I have a connection from another life, where he went out into a mangrove forest to do some work and came back with some data. And I said, Ainsley, this doesn't look right. Mangroves don't grow this big. So he actually took me out there and we went to look at it. This was in St. Thomas. And we found mangrove trees which have diameter up to 15, 20 centimeters. Huge trees. Now I can understand why in some countries they use mangrove trees to make timber. We were thinking of, little bent up mangroves that we have. No, you can have very tall, very strong mangrove trees. So yes, they're used for timber, and of course the tannins. Culturally, we use them for teaching, we use them for aesthetic. They're part of some entities in terms of their social engagement. So we know it's important. But when we try to talk to people about how much it's worth, usually they need to know the dollar value, and people don't seem to realize unless you talk dollars. So the Pro4 World Bank project actually worked with a number of you in the room who I'm seeing for us to come up with a valuation. 32.7 million is the flood protection. That is what's coming from the land that's going to end up as flooding. These mangroves can reduce. 32.7 million worth of flood protection. Storm protection, now that's the waves coming in, especially with storms, 186 million per hectare. Fisheries, and this is extrapolation from not just the small fish as they grow up, but the species of fish, the range of fish that are there, 213 million per year. And of course, carbon sequestration, 179.9 million. That's the present value based on work that we're doing. Now that work is incomplete because we are currently doing some work, which I will say a little more in a little while. I see my colleague from TNC. We're working on a project where we're going to determine, so what's the carbon being held, not just in the root, but in all the sediments around the roots, because there's carbon being locked away there for hundreds of years. If you were to lock it away for 100 years, it would be worth 17.8 billion. That's with a B, not an M. So there's a lot that mangroves do and that can be done in terms of what we are. This doesn't include the ecotourism potential, nor does it include the forest biodiversity within the forest itself, which has its own valuation. So we have the nutrient filtration, we have the windbreaks, we have the fish and wildlife in terms of what lives there, and we know there are over 200 species that benefit. 14% of the world's carbon sequestration is in mangroves. That's a 2014 data. In fact, we're now doing this project with TNC and Pew to determine what is the current carbon sequestration of mangroves. We're also doing seagrasses at the same time. Household products, wood products, and of course the coastal buffer that we've spoken of. Now, our two major airports are both on what was mangrove. Shame on us. But what you've done, you cannot undo. But you can pay for it and you can restore. Many of our coastal towns and cities are also on what was old mangroves. So it means we have more. I'm giving you the guilt trip here now so you can say why we need to make this happen. There are things that we can make happen around mangroves. There are ecotourism, there's the Black River Safari tours. We can think about things that happen within the Falmouth area, within both on the north and south coast. Recreationally, there's a lot that can and does happen in mangroves, and we should take advantage of those. So, are Jamaican mangroves disappearing? Yes, and we are responsible. So the mangrove loss from the NEPA State of the Environment tells us that we lost 2,000 hectares. I looked at the data, and I'm glad you have that finer data in terms of only 16 hectares were lost from the period 2017. I'm very grateful that that is there. There are about 14,000 hectares of mangrove, and half of them are going to be managed in this new project. That's a brilliant step forward, because we've never done that before. Important you know who owns it, and I think Ms. Whiteley spoke to that. So 41% is in the government hands, which means the government has the largest responsibility. And we need to ensure that we do that. Now, it's good, because the government are the same ones that sign all these treaties and conventions that I'm going to mention. So let's see if we can get them to hold to attention. 41% is in private hands. Now, I know that private sector has their own view as to, is my land, and I must do what I want with it. But it's your land? Okay, so you have a responsibility, Mr. or Mrs., whoever you are, for all of what I've just said. When you explain that, many of them say, all right, well, here, you take it. You manage it then, since it's such a problem. So we might want to talk about shared ownership, about shared management, and that has worked various places. I know CCAM, I saw CCAM in here. That's a good example of how we've jointly managed areas. And then, unverified, about 12%, where we're still continuing to do data assessment. And data drives all our decisions if you're making the best decisions. So why are we having threats? Why is there a problem? Well, logging you would think is probably the greatest damage, but it's not. Logging is less than 10% in terms of how we're losing mangroves, but it is a problem. People still cut for charcoal, etc. Pollution is a problem, but it's a little more than logging, but not as much. Then solid waste is a problem based on damage, but by far, how we develop is our biggest problem. What we decide, remember that human intervention in environmental management, what we develop, how we develop, where we develop, tells us the difference. Now, I know that and I'm sure that Minister Bartlett is going to ask me why I say this, but as we put down every tourism footprint, we need to ask ourselves, must we do it in a mangrove area? Conservation is not the same as restoration. That's the last slide I can tell you, by the way. So loss and damage, where is it happening? So we are having losses, and I've told you what the damage is every time you lose. Well, the highest loss is now happening, well, has happened in St. Ann, 37%. In fact, most of the mangroves on the North Coast are now threatened. I would use that word. They're at risk. The South Coast, yeah, we're still doing pretty well, but the North Coast, we're in trouble. St. Thomas, 33%, and I know that there are plans to do things in St. Thomas, and we're trying to say, well, you know, you're sure you want to do that? You're sure you want to do that and do that there? St. Catherine, 29.9%. So that's thankfully from the Forestry Department data. And we've already talked about the coastal flooding and the dollar value that we have. So let's look at how we can use what we have to make it happen. So I spoke about our acceding to various conventions, and I'm just going to mention a few. So UNFCCC gives us an opportunity to do something about mangroves. Jamaica, having signed on, so we're a part of the UNFCCC, we are looking at mangroves, and our NDCs, our nationally determined contributions, are important parts of how we tell ourselves and everybody else in the world what we want to do. Now, Jamaica was one of the first, in fact, if you say there are 190 countries in the UN system, Jamaica was within the first 10 to put its NDCs out there. Our national determined contribution said we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're not going to do this anymore. We were lauded for it, and it was great. But it had one problem, and I've said it, and Minister Samuda and I are talking about how we can influence the next NDCs, which are ready to be rolled, you know. We're starting to work on it already. The NDCs didn't have any nature-based solutions. So we talked about a lot of greenhouse gases that we're going to pull out and a lot of fossil fuels that we're going to stop using and start using renewable. But it didn't talk about nature-based solutions that are important parts. And the two can happen together. And they should happen together to give you the greatest bang for the buck. So the project that I've just mentioned, the project with PU, TNC, and the Center for Marine Sciences, we're just embarking on a project to determine what is the carbon in all around the mangroves and seagrasses. How could we trade this against what we are doing with other things to give us a better feel? So nature-based solutions, I want to be a part of our next NDCs, and this is the data set that's going to start that discussion, and the work that forestry is doing is going to be an important part of that. Ambassador Francine spoke about COP. Now, COP28 was an interesting event in that there are a lot of people running around saying a lot of things. I will tell you first off, the first day, the declaration that loss and damage had been agreed upon kind of took everybody by surprise, and those of us who were going charged up, ready to go fight for it for about the 5th year in a row, kind of like were taken off guard. Like, okay, so what do we do now? It took us a couple of days to realize that, oh, there are other things we need to fight for, like how much money is going to be in there, who is going to manage it, when is it going to be available, and who's going to be able to apply for it, what's the process, and I could go on. But one of the things I found very interesting, at COP, there was a separate session on the Day for Oceans set up by the presidency of COP, which had what we call the Mangrove Breakthrough. They got together, all the countries, and committed that 15 million hectares of mangrove must be protected by 2030. And all the countries there pledged. So Jamaica jumped up, and Minister Samuda was our head of our delegation, and he pledged for us, and I was like, go, Minister. But can I tell you where, you want to know how much? Let him tell you that. But can I tell you, where did he get the concept from? Because we sat in the room, and it was clear they were going to ask us. So, Jamaica, what's your contribution? Because I will tell you, Jamaica has a strong voice in the wider world, especially in the environment. Whenever you look at SIDS, Oasis, Jamaica, they always say, Jamaica, comment, and you have to make a comment. So, Minister Samuda was ready to make the comment, and he asked me, so, Mr. Mangrove expert, what you say? Having known that Camilo Trench had just completed writing the document, which we are now using as the launch today, I went to the forestry website, I downloaded the document, and I said, Minister, read the abstract. He read the abstract, and he committed from the abstract. So, kudos to you, and the project is already working. But a lot of what you're using is actually biodiversity, and that's an important part. We've talked about how many species there are on a root or in a tree. And think about it, every type of tree has a different community around it. So you're talking about a huge ecosystem with a large biodiversity. So we are going to be using the Convention on Biological Diversity as a weapon in trying to maintain the mangrove areas. You see the connection. High biodiversity, you have a convention that says you must do X. Here's how we're going to make it happen. In fact, the commitment that was given was that we would have had 1% gain in mangrove forests. We never made that for 2013. So there's a new action plan that came up 2016 to 2021, and we're now reforming that. So we now need to make a commitment to say, so how much are we going to increase our mangrove forests by so that we can increase our biodiversity by? So that's the calculation. And again, data are going to drive the decision. So that's how many conventions we've gone so far? 2. A third one, the Cartagena Protocol through the SPA, that has a commitment for mangrove, seagrass, and coral reef through the Regional Action Center. That allows us to say we are going to claim how much mangrove area based on our coastal systems. It's an implementation of restoration, which is, I don't like it because it's the afterthought, but we'll come to that in a few moments. How many moments I have? So I've gone 3. 4, of course, Ramsar. Ramsar must be our home convention for the wetlands because that's where mangroves live. We joined the Ramsar Convention in 1998. We have 4 mangrove areas of special importance. This gives us legal framework. And what we've done in Jamaica is we've found an area, the 4 of them that are there, and we superimpose. So we say, this is a Ramsar site, and here's what it means. But we superimpose on that another protected area status and another type of status so that it gets double, triple, quadruple protection in the hope that that will protect what we have there. So the framework is there. Our problem is always implementation and adherence to the rules. Now, we need to stop this top-down policing. It needs to be a bottom-up where we, the people, say, we know the value, which is why I spent so much time telling you about the this and the that of the mangrove. We need to be able to say, well, this is what we want the mangroves. This is why we want the mangroves. And the more of it we have, the better. So one more convincing site in terms of Ramsar. Ramsar has estimated that we should be storing mangroves because 23 gigatons of carbon is stored in mangroves globally. If you lose that, you are releasing carbon. You get, the 1.5 just went out the door if you do that. So that's yet another reason. Losing 1% of that mangrove is equivalent to burning 520 barrels of oil. So hang on to it. So here comes the National Mangrove and Swamp Forest Management Plan 2023 to 2033, which allows us to look at existing legislation, allows us to look at existing policies, and tie that to potential actions. If nothing else, take away that this is the framework, this is the roadmap which allows you to pull on all the various things that you might have had to allow you to make better use of what we have. It's a framework that we've never had before, and I like the idea that you've been multidisciplinary in the approach in getting it. There is a task force that now follows up, which is going to meet and continue in terms of advising what happens next. So for us, I think it's great, and the partnership is significant. I mean, I look around the room and I looked on the screen, I see partners, I see Professor Forrester, I haven't seen you in years, but the next slide is about you. But clearly they have reached out and touched people who are doing large acreages. They have done those who are doing research, Port Royal, Discovery Bay, Alligator Head. I saw CMU here a few moments ago. I know he told me he had 11 o'clock, but we're taking research on board as we make the decision-making process happen. And then the government is involved through 2 or 3 ministers who are on screen. So for me, it makes a difference in what we do. Our environmental policy, therefore, has to work. Now, there's some things that are working. Things are not always great, but we need to make them work better. So talked about our NDCs. Right now, they're built on our greenhouse gas emission and trying to reduce. We need now a whole new line, maybe a paragraph, maybe even a whole chapter that says, and how do the nature-based solutions contribute, and dollarize that to put it in there. We talk about our protected areas. We're about 18%. Well, that's a combination of terrestrial and marine. Terrestrial, we're about at 25%. Marine, we're down at about 14%. So overall, about 18, 19%. The goal is 30% overall, 30 by 30. And we can make it happen, but we need to push for it. Already there's a declaration of Black River, one of our main wetland areas, Cockpit, which is not wetland, but is forests, and Pedro. 3 million trees in 3 years. How close are you, Ainsley? Close. 2.8? Well, that's good. So the rest of us here can just plant out the rest, right? Okay, so everybody leave with a tree today. A mangrove tree, by the way. The National Forest Plan, which we're talking about today, plastic packing material prohibition, that's one order that's coming, and there's another one that I think Minister is talking about today in his State of the Nation. And then we have other environmental policies that we think will help us with our mangrove, because we have to think about the entire ecosystem. So blue carbon restoration in southern Clarendon is a huge project. In fact, Dr. Forrester, this is one of the biggest projects in terms of land area. So I'll put you on the spot. To whom much is given, from them much is expected. That area needs to be a major success. It is the largest replanting that's going to happen. Now, Dr. Trent will tell you that replanting mangrove don't mean sticking mangrove in the ground. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the hydrology. It's as simple as rewatering, rewetting areas that were dry. So we need to use the data and the research to drive the decision to make the largest impact in the largest area. So kudos, but we're looking out for the results. NEPA has had an adopter mangrove. And in doing this, both Port Royal and Discovery Bay Marine Labs have produced over 10,000 seedlings. So they are there, and you can come and get them, and we can decide how we're going to... In fact, when you get off the plane and you're driving on the Palisades, on the left-hand side, when you're coming back in, the harbor side, all of that replanting there are projects that we have done with National Works Agency, with various government entities to do replanting. It is proof of concept. We planted them, how long ago, Dr. Trench? 3 years, 4 years? 4 years? And we planted them this tall. You pass there now, and they are easily 6, 7 feet tall. And a community is being created. But the proof of concept says it can be done. And we ought to be doing more of it in more places. So I close by saying conservation is important. And conserving what we have left, with all that we've said, we must hold on to every hectare, every square foot, every square meter of mangrove that we have. The natural regeneration will happen. And it usually happens faster than we can do when we plant it. It's a priority under Ramsar. So if you ever have anybody ask you why, just hold up Ramsar, because if we're going to adhere to that which we've signed on to, we should be able to do that using our international treaties. Conservation is number one. Restoration, I guess, is number two. Restoration is regaining the function of the mangrove ecosystem. Now, that might mean doing different things in different ways. Some people have artificial structures that they put in to try and do the same. If you can get the ecosystem, there are many things to be gained, and the biodiversity is probably one of the greatest gains from that. Rehabilitation, that is where now you're actually going to do planting to say, I'm going to get the ecosystem service over time, but I'm going to put back, I'm going to restore both the slope as well as the species, both the infrastructure as well as the precipitation and the water holding capacity. I will close, however, by saying, no matter how good you think we are, no matter how many seedlings we grow, no matter how much we care and tend for that which we restore and rehabilitate, we can never replace mangroves as they were done originally. What God put there, we can't touch. We ought not to touch. We can do the restoration on the back end, but why give yourself more work if you can conserve? Conservation should be our major goal, considering all we've already taken out, the value that we know it has, its intrinsic and future value, and how slowly, I don't want to say how poorly, but how slowly our restoration happens. It is incumbent on us to use the valuations by whatever means you consider, whether monetary, whether socially, whether environmentally, to conserve that which we have. And this management plan that is being launched today, this plan gives us the roadmap. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Professor Weber, for those interesting insights and for contextualizing the state of our mangroves and the timelessness of the project. I think you painted the picture of a mangrove that a child can appreciate and information that can inspire adults to change the way they look at mangroves. It was very excellent, and thank you so much. We know that we are assured of the success of this project based on the knowledge and expertise that exists here in Jamaica. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we would have had another environmental steward speaking to us today, but unfortunately, as you mentioned, Professor Weber, Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda is unable to join us as he's giving his State of the Nation address in the Senate today. Still, we know he will be very active in his role for the implementation of this project. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you have had a feast of information about the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. And at this time, we invite you to pose questions you may have using the microphone on either side of the room. Wonderful. And before asking your question, we ask that you also share your name, your organization, and who you would like to address your question. Also, please stand. So who is first?
Hello. Good morning, everyone, and thanks to all who presented. I'm very encouraged. I just had two questions, or suggestions almost, relating to the restoration and the conservation. I'm Kerry Wallace, Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund. So I know tourism may be the enemy in this room, but I'll brave my way forward. Mm-hmm. So with respect to conservation, I wondered if the project had a component for marketing and selling what Professor Weber did to us just now, showing the value of mangroves, showing how sexy mangroves are. And so not just to us, the locals here who need to protect it, but from a tourism perspective, if you can get the visitors to have that value of mangroves. I mean, that's a few years ago, one of the surveys that we did showed that the number one thing a visitor wanted in a Caribbean holiday was the beach, powder white sand beach. And so naturally, any business person in the hotel industry, building a hotel, investing, wants to provide what the visitor wants. So that's a beach. Mangroves are, I don't want to say in the way of beaches, but you see where it then creates a bit of a conflict. If the visitor, in turn, makes the number one thing that they want in a Caribbean holiday is to see the environmental and a very healthy mangrove as part of their experience, you could see how that could then dictate to our tourism investors to ensure that they don't go into a space and pick up the whole of the mangroves in order to put their hotel there. They actually make sure the mangroves are restored while they take a section, hopefully without mangroves, to build their hotels on, and we can coexist. So the coffee industry has done that. The cafes have now, in the past where it was cheaper to get coffee from anywhere, now the sourcing is crucial because customers are very peculiar about the source of the coffee to make sure it's not from any untoward sources where the coffee is grown and so on. So, and that is now a thing in the cafe industry. So it has been done before. I just wanted to see if there was an option for this project to have some kind of portion of the funding paying attention to this opportunity for us to change the world, so to speak. It won't benefit Jamaica alone, it will be the entire tourism and leisure industry across the world. The second question, I went with restoration first
sir.
because that...
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to make it very short.
Right, the second one, sorry, is
and
now...
who would you like to address it?
It's today, to Professor Weber.
Okay.
So the second one is just on the restoration. How much of a replacement can be done? So if we have to take out mangroves from a hopefully small area, could we put policy in place to say you have to replace an adjacent area with double the amount, I don't know, whatever to correct, to make good on the need to still have development in our tourism space, as well as protect this sexy environmental plant or tree that we have here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kerry. I'm glad to know that you think mangroves are sexy. So the answer to your questions are yes and yes. So on the back end, second question first. There is already a no net loss policy at NEPA. For every hectare of mangrove that you take out, you must restore it. But here's the problem. I just told you about how long it took for the ones on Palisades. You take out mangrove today, and it'll take 10 years before it has the same ecosystem service as the one you just took out. So we should make, actually I should suggest that, good idea. It should be replaced 10 times what you took out. But time is money, so we need to work on that one. But there is a policy, and we just need to be sure that it's taken on board. The key, I still believe, conservation of what we have. We've already taken out so much. Can we afford to take out any more? But if you must, then there is our no net loss policy which matches that. We just need to be aggressive with it and be sure that we work through the process. On the front end, so a lot of wetlands are actually used now for tourism. I mean, the Black River Safari, as I mentioned, and there are a couple of others that you actually have some treks, some mangrove treks. You have the Biodiversity Center, which the Environmental Foundation of Jamaica funded for the Port Royal Marine Lab, which is still it's there as a teaching tool, but it's also as a part of the tourism product. When the cruise ships landed, first got in at Port Royal with the floating dock, Port Authority, I think Tovia brought some of them over, and it became a part of, here you can see a lot about the Jamaica's biodiversity in this center. So there are ways to do it. And again, so thank you for giving me the opportunity. So your tourism product now needs to have a footprint which has an environmental component, and we will design it and you can pay for it.
Next question.
Good morning, everyone. Mashario Bisesa, Social Development Commission. This, Professor Weber, sorry. Can you provide a more detailed context regarding the community awareness and education efforts related to the importance of the conservation of the mangroves?
I think you're asking for a systematic approach to the education process. Now, there are many ways to do this. I'll tell you, as you know, I'm at the University of the West Indies, and it's the best place to come to learn. We actually have a marine science diploma, degree, etc. But outside of that, all the NGOs have an education outreach component. Whether it is at CCAM, JCDT, JET, they all have a component that do the education that we're talking about. And they're all invested and are knowledgeable. I will say they employ a lot of our graduates who carry the information that we teach in our courses. So it's out there. The key is just to access it where it already lies. And this project, from what I've seen, does have an education, a strong education component, where I assume that this information and information such as what we had today and any other information that becomes available through the data and the research becomes a part of the package that we put out there. So I think the multiplier effect becomes using the NGOs, using the school environment programs, using the network that exists within schools as a part of that process. But I think it exists, we just need to enhance it and stay true to it. Just stay here? Why are there all the questions for me? This is a forestry event.
Good, are we still in morning? Good morning, everybody. My name is Karen MacDonald-Gale, and I am the CEO of the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund. So first, my personal comment on the document, congratulations on everything, is following very nicely from Mr. Wallace, the idea of offsets and the actual costing of some of what is being denuded is something that I would love to see considered under the policy that's being developed for mangrove restoration. So not only net zero, but net zero plus whatever value we have now put on the mangroves. And then in terms of the work that we are doing at the Caribbean Biodiversity Fund, right behind you, we will be launching our JEF project, which is called Caribbean Bluefin, Caribbean Blue Economy Financing Project. CBF focuses on the idea of long-term financing for blue economy projects in this case. And so one of the ideas is a blue carbon facility, which will think about not only in Jamaica, but across the Caribbean. How are we going to capture and hold, get funding for, get ourselves on the carbon trading market with blue carbon. So we look forward to the results. Ainsley knows where to find me, I know where to find him, so I look forward to the results of the project. Congratulations.
Good morning, everyone.
This is our final question, and then we'll proceed.
Good morning. My name is David Walters. I am the Executive Director of the Jamaica Conservation and Development Trust. I have two questions. It could either be for Prof. Weber or Mr. Henry. I'd like to understand what the plan is to include communities and NGO stakeholders in achieving these goals. And the other part of that is that I would like to understand what can the NGO community do to support the goals and objectives of this project?
I know, I was perfectly happy when all the questions were for Dale. But quick answer. A part of the approach to this project has always been collaboration, and so a big part of what we'll be doing is a steering committee has been set up which will have participation from all of the various stakeholders, and at the same time there are, as has been mentioned, a multiplicity of public education and awareness aspects that will also be developed. The project operating plan is being finalized as well, and that's a part of what you'll be discussing in the workshops afterwards. So there will always be an opportunity to help to guide the way the project is finally implemented.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your questions. Thank you, everyone, for your keen participation. And we're out of time for more questions, but I do invite you to contact hereafter the project manager, Mrs. Nicolene Whiteley, and to repeat her contact information. Her telephone is 658-206-0621, or you may email her at nwhiteley@forestry.gov.jm. You may also scan the QR code on the back of your programs to learn more about the project And don't worry, even if it takes a little while to pop up, have a little patience. You may also visit our website to download additional resource documents as you go along. Now, to deliver the vote of thanks, I invite Mr. Damart Williams, Senior Director of Zonal Operations Eastern at the Forestry Department.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, still morning, just on the cusp of midday. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw the curtains on this momentous occasion, I stand before you with immense gratitude and a heart full of appreciation. On behalf of the Forestry Department and the entire organizing committee, I extend a warm and a heartfelt vote of thanks to each and every one of you who contributed to the success of this launch event for the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. A special note of thanks to Miss Nicolene Whiteley. No, my apologies. First and foremost, our sincere thanks go to Mr. Shaji Gay Elliott, our dynamic master of ceremonies and the public relations and communications officer at the Forestry Department. Yes, indeed. Indeed. For her engaging chairperson's opening remarks and guiding us through this morning's program. Your eloquence and energy created an inviting atmosphere, making today's event even more memorable. We sincerely thank Ambassador Marion Van Steen, head of the European Union delegation to Jamaica, for your encouraging greetings and the endorsement of this project. I also wish to thank Ms. Janelle Tomlinson from the Food and Agriculture Organization for her greetings this morning. The EU and FAO support reinforces the collaborative efforts needed to make a lasting impact. Our profound appreciation goes to Professor Dale Weber, head of the Center for Marine Sciences at the University of the West Indies, Mona, for your enlightening expert talk on the importance of mangrove ecosystems and their impact on the environment. A heartfelt thank you to Mr. Ainsley Henry, CEO and Conservator of Forests at the Forestry Department, for warmly welcoming us this morning and sharing his insights. Your leadership is instrumental and will continue to drive the implementation of the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. A special note of thanks to Ms. Nicolene Whiteley, Project Manager of the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project, for providing a comprehensive overview and coordinating today's event. Your dedication and expertise are crucial in steering this project towards success, and we look forward to working with you to achieve the objectives. Thank you to Mr. Michael Watson, Director of Business Systems and Applications at the Forestry Department, for setting the tone with a beautiful opening prayer. Your words resonated with the spirit of unity and purpose, guiding us in this noble cause. To Mr. Shavane Young, heartfelt thanks to you as well, for the captivating cultural item, adding a touch of artistry to this event. To you, our distinguished guests, contributors, participants, and members of the media, we express our gratitude for your active engagement during the Q&A session. Your presence and support make a significant difference, and we look forward to your continued collaboration in this crucial journey towards preserving Jamaica's mangrove ecosystems. Thank you all for your presence, contributions, and commitment to the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. Together, we embark on a journey of sustainable conservation for a better, greener future. And with that, I say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And at this time, I ask Mr. Ainsley Henry to come forward as he will make presentations to our presenters. Firstly, Ambassador Weinstein. Next, we have Ms. Tomlinson. And next, we have Professor Dale Weber. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Thank you to all our presenters and you, our valued guests. I remind you that we have displays outside by some of the stakeholders in mangrove conservation, including the Forestry Department, Alligator Head from Portland, and the Center for Marine Sciences at the University of the West Indies. Please take some time to view the exhibits and enjoy your coffee break. And for those who will join the second session, we resume at 12:30 next door. Ladies and gentlemen, it was my pleasure chairing the launch of the Jamaica Mangroves Plus project. I am Nashejige Elliott, and I do wish you'll have a wonderful